Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chris Turner. I'm the Associate Director of Public Services at the University of Wisconsin Law School Library. So that means normally I am helping faculty, law students, judges, alumni, and just the general public to find answers to legal research questions. Pretty stressful stuff. However, we also do a lot of stuff with technology at the law school, such as generative AI. And Liz kindly asked me to come join you today. Thank you very much, Liz, for having me, to talk to you about how do you say it? Generative, thank you. I have said that word before. Generative AI tools, it's just water in there, I promise. To see how you can actually become more productive in your life, your career, or just to learn more about these tools, that's totally fine too. Who here has used one of these tools before? Accidentally? I hate it when that happens. And you've used one as well? A little bit. Which ones have you used accidentally or on purpose?
Google.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
I created some images, but I didn't like the text generation one, but I did get it.
Yep. We'll look at some of the image generators that you've used. Was it ChatGPT or something like that?
It was a year ago.
Okay, it was a long time ago, yeah, I gotcha. And then there's also the text generators. We'll look at those and talk about the differences here as well. And talk about some of the problems and pitfalls and ethical issues that are involved in these things, because they look great, but you scratch the surface and there are problems with these things. I'm sure some of you have probably already seen some of the headlines that are embarrassing for people. We will stop and laugh at them, I promise, along the way. So if there's any questions as we go, please just let me know. You can interrupt me. It's not an interruption. I'm happy to talk with you about this for, 3 hours we said?
It'll take 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Okay, I'll fit it in. Okay, so AI, is it all hype or is this a valuable tool? Let's figure this out together. So this all came about around Thanksgiving of 2022. That was when ChatGPT, the most well-known of these tools, was released. I was teaching a class on legal technology. We had 1 week left in the semester, and I missed it because I was out of town. It made me so mad that they did this over Thanksgiving that I wasn't able to tell my legal technology students about it. So I've been making it up to myself by teaching classes like this since then, because I want to talk about it a lot more. So that is only a year and a half, coming up on 2 years ago. And now you cannot escape this stuff. Almost everything you use, including Google, accidentally will integrate some form of AI, artificial intelligence, into it. And the adoption rate for this is incredible. It's super fast how people are trying to integrate this, maybe not to their own benefit. But we're going to look at a few companies that have actually integrated it already. These are examples from just earlier this summer. Meta, that's the company that owns Facebook, that owns Instagram, decided a couple months ago or a year ago to not do news anymore. They're like, we don't want to have people come here to look at the news. We're not about that. We're about social stuff, community, things like that. Never mind. We're going to have AI. They have an AI tool that works within Facebook and then their other platforms that reads the news externally and then can summarize it for you within their platforms. What is happening today in the presidential election? It'll spit out a result just saying, here's what happened today based on these headlines and some of the free articles that are out there. So now they're back in the news game because AI makes it more efficient for them to say, okay, we don't have to pay for that content to show up on Facebook. We can just tell the AI to go read it and summarize it for you on the spot. Summarizing, by the way, is like one of the best things AI is for. We'll get more into that as we go forward too. The Real. Has anyone heard of this place? Yeah, Rebecca? All right, yeah. The Real is an online used clothing store. So a lot of people will sell really nice clothes there. Like, here is a great thing that I want to resell and it's worth money. Guess what that attracts? People selling fakes, right? You're like, oh, I have this great Gucci item I want to sell. Not Gucci, it's called Lucci actually. And they're like, oh, oops, I spent $3,000 on a Lucci purse. Well, what happens? So what they did is they developed an AI tool that actually looks at the images themselves and says, that is a fake based on these design flaws or something else like that. So that, again, the AI is being used to make their business more efficient. They can also help secure themselves against liability concerns. Like, I bought this on your website and it was wrong, it was fake. They can say, well, the AI is trying to protect it from us. The next question is what happens when the AI misses that fake thing and you still bought it, But that's a question for later on in the presentation. And finally, well, not quite finally, we are now approaching the place where dating apps will use AI. Who wants to date an AI persona? No, good. No one raised. Liz, did you raise your hand back there? Okay. AI personas. So this is a company called Bumble, which is a dating app online where you can sign up for profiles and things like that. The CEO or the founder has said, we want to create avatars where your AI avatar will go on dates, quote unquote, with other avatars to kind of start to match you up. So it's like a cold call date. Like, okay, the AI is first dating someone else's AI, and now that they are clicking, now you can actually have a real first date after that. People didn't really like that idea for some reason. I don't know why they wouldn't think that's a good idea. But this is how people are thinking of using AI. Again, this is looking at efficiency is what they're looking at most. You can see efficiency in all three of these things. They want to summarize the news for you. They want to catch the fake so people don't have to look at it all themselves. People actually have to, and they want to save you from bad dates that are inefficient. Or maybe not. So those are three of the ways that AI is being used out there. Also, Coke decided to use AI last fall to create a new flavor called Coke Y3000. Did anybody try this? It's no longer really widely available. I used to have a whole bunch of these that I would give out at these things, and everyone would say this is terrible, and I would agree with them. But it is another idea of how marketing with AI is happening. It actually tasted like, what was the candy? It's kind of like a Nerds given Coke form, is what I thought a little bit. It was a very, very sweet cotton candy kind of taste with Coke undertones, is what I thought. Coke, AI also designed the label, by the way. So they're just looking for new ways and new concepts to integrate into business and to sell you different things using AI. The idea was that AI collaborated with humans to create this new flavor. And collaboration with AI is something we'll talk about more as well. So let's take a step back here and just talk about more what we mean by generative AI. So generative AI is something that is entirely created new from existing content. So if you ask one of these examples down here to say, write me a story about Middleton Public Library and the bear that lived there, it would come up with a fiction story based on my little prompt that I just said that is entirely brand new and unique. It is not just extracting it from somewhere else. That's one thing I want to differentiate here. So you have the generative AI that's entirely new content, but you also have something that Google uses a lot, extractive AI. That is stuff that is already existing. Like if you ask a question, what year did Wizard of Oz get released? Google will go out into the wide world. Do you know that one?
Yeah, so you say entirely new content. They only have gone through what already exists and extracting for it. How could you say it's a new content?
Because it's not just recreating what is existing. What it is doing is building something new off of that existing content. That is a good, important distinction. Thank you for making it. So it can only build a new content based on the stuff that is currently existing. So just the way they define it, it's generating that content from stuff that's already out there, but extractive AI is not actually creating that new content. We'll do an example run in a second for what it looks like, but it will actually just be pulling it out and say, here's what I found for you. Yes?
When someone asks a question, could you repeat the question before?
Yes, sorry. Yep, I'll repeat that really quickly. Thank you for telling me that. He was just asking if it's going out there to actually pull things from existing content, how is it actually generating something new and not called extracting it? So instead of just saying Wizard of Oz was released in 1939, generative AI would say, it's coming out in the year 2018 starring so-and-so. It's just making up an entirely new story for you if that's what you've prompted for. It's generating new information based on existing information. So that's kind of the difference here between generating new content and extracting content. We'll see a little bit of that in a second. This image is just another example of something that generative AI can do. Before we get to that though, there's large language models. So what those are is this enormous set of data that these models sit on top of. So a lot of these, like the well-known ones like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, which we'll look at, and Microsoft's Copilot, sit on top of something called the internet. And it's drawing from the entire vast open internet in some cases, and others sometimes copyrighted works as well, and we'll talk about that too. So it's drawing from Wikipedia. It's drawing from online Reddit posts, people just posting things on these different blogs and forums. It's drawing from lawyers' websites. It's drawing from libraries' websites. It's drawing from just anything that's out there and freely available and things that other engineers have put into them. And then based on that, it'll say, here's a new thing. Like I'll say, write me that Middleton Public Library story about the bear that lived there in the tone of Stephen King. And so it knows all the Stephen King works because Stephen King works have been put into it. So it will be inspired in its way to create new content in that form. Does that make sense? So these top 5 actually are things that'll give you text back, not images, not voices. There are image generators as well. This one I created using Microsoft Copilot actually. My prompt was, create an image of a nice public library in Wisconsin. And this is what it gave me. Are there any public libraries in Wisconsin that have beautiful stained glass like that? Not that I'm aware of. Maybe there is some out there. So it took some liberties with that a little bit. But I also asked Copilot to create an image of Bucky Badger having a good time with college students. And here's what it came up with for that one. And there we go. There's Bucky Badger. Let's take a look at this. Tell me what's wrong with this picture. Yeah, there is a big problem with a lot of these generative AI. They cannot spell. Like you see, they cannot spell. The reason for that is that wide, large ocean of data it's sitting on top of, it's not all in English. It's in Russian, it's in Chinese, it's in Japanese, it's in Spanish. And so it gobbledygooks all this language together and it spits out something like this. It knows generally that a Wisconsin football team will wear red and white, but it can't get that language quite right yet. It's not there yet. So we'll talk about how we can try to avoid these obvious errors. Here is another way we'll work on spotting other errors with image generators. But this one, pretty straightforward for catching this one. There's also other kind of off-putting things like this right here. I don't know what's going on with this poor person's eyes, but it's not normal. We're in the uncanny valley here is what's going on. So let's jump out of here and we'll take a look at a few of these examples. We'll try some together and see what comes of it. So, like I said, ChatGPT, this is ChatGPT and what it looks like, was the first of these generative AI large language models, which means it's laying on top of all this vast information from the internet and creating new content for you. What kind of question should we ask it? Anyone have a question they want to ask generative AI?
Well, where the stock market would be in 10 years?
Okay, let's ask that. The question is, let's ask this, what is the best stock to buy to get money in 10 years? Is that okay if I tweak it a little bit? Mm-hmm. Let's see what it'll do here. What is the best stock to purchase to make money in 10 years? Let's see what it'll give me. Immediately, this is one thing to notice, look at that, an answer like that. It moves extremely quickly. So now it's kind of hedging its bet here. You see, it's giving me, it's like choosing the best stock to purchase involves a lot of factors. So it's not quite answering our question here, but let's scroll down a little bit and see what it does. So here's everything that we should look at when we're gonna buy our 10-year horizon stock market. Yeah, give us a name, I say. Let's give it a poke and see what it does. I'll say that's great. Which one do you recommend then? Oh, I can't provide any but here are some ideas. All right. Mm-hmm. Actually, look at this. I can't do specific ones. However, here's some specific ones. So, whatever. You see, this is, covering itself up a little bit, and then immediately it's like, here are some things that have performed well recently. There's something too shocking there, right? And you're seeing things there that might be high performing there. Yeah, go ahead.
It's my impression that was tempered by lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers have been looking at this very carefully, although I will talk about how lawyers have abused and misused this thing as well because they trust it a little bit too much, even lawyers and everyone else. But yeah, if you looked at this and you bought 1 million shares of Microsoft and then Microsoft tanked, you would not be able to go to Microsoft and say, or go to ChatGPT and say, you told me that this was going to make me money. You're going to be safe from that one. Or ChatGPT will be safe from that one. But that is kind of the idea. So you can see on the left-hand side, it actually tracks what you're doing. This is the free version, by the way. All you have to do is create an account at chatgpt.com. Just email and log in, and you can actually go in and try this yourself. You can buy a premium version that is $20 a month that will allow you to create images and is a little more up to date. This one is actually, let me tell you one thing that's interesting about this, it is not current. They turned it off from access to the internet, I believe in 2023. So if we were to ask it something recent, it would probably get it wrong because it just doesn't know. So that's another way that I'm a little concerned about this because people don't know that this is not connected to the current internet. It was trained on the old internet, so to speak. So to get that beautiful current stuff, you got to pay $20 a month for ChatGPT. But one thing I want to go back to pointing out is look how fast it generated this stuff. Some of this, I mean, we can probably say that Microsoft and Google are relatively safe bets to have good stocks in the next 10 years from this. I think that's probably a safe bet. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, probably safe bets. I mean, they didn't take any risk for us in the stock market. I guess I appreciate that, ChatGPT. But we are not sure about this. One thing, when we're talking to law students and lawyers, they have access to all this too, of course. I've done many examples of say, give me a great case about reproductive rights in Wisconsin. It will make them up. It just makes up information, and we'll talk about that later on. If you were to just take this and trust it without verifying it, it gets things wrong a lot, and it's very disconcerting how many people are like, that is it, gospel is written in the stars right here, and we can just go from there. But instead, you have to kind of start here, get this information, and then start to verify it afterwards. So that's what ChatGPT looks like. Let's look at some of its competitors. This is Copilot. This is the one that's created by Microsoft of Bill Gates fame. So this one creates images, and it also can give us text. Let's ask it to create an image and see what it does. Anyone want a fun image? What's a good question? What's a good picture to create with Copilot?
The Great Pyramids.
Great. I'm gonna go even further. Let's do the Great Pyramids on Mercury. How about that? We're gonna get a little more creative. If they were on Mercury and built by cats. So let's see what Copilot can do with this. I'll try to create that. Thank you, Copilot. Go ahead and create it. So it's going to give me an image based on the Great Pyramids. Sorry, I took extreme liberties with your suggestion on this one. Oh, I have to sign in. I already signed in, Mike. Let's do it again. This one is partially free. If you go through, you have to create an account, and I believe it is free after that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All these are what I call freemium. So you have a free version that is okay, and then you have the paid one that actually has a lot of good content in there. A lot of these you will find are $20 a month, normally for like the premium one. So you're talking about $120 or $240 a year. Yeah. Oh no. Let me go this way. I don't want to hang out here too long and do other things. We'll come back to this if we have time, but let's try a few other ones here. This one is called Claude. This one I am signed into. This one is most well known for creating helpful content for you. So I'm going to try to create an email. Write me an email where I have to fire an employee who has worked with me for 10 years, but stole my dog last night. Make it nice. Did you see how fast that was? Let's read through and just see how this is here. Remember, I said make it nice. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to follow up on the events of last night and our subsequent discussion. I've given this matter a great deal of thought, and it pains me to say I've come to the difficult decision to terminate your employment effective immediately. Your contributions have been invaluable. However, the breach of trust that occurred last night has irreparably damaged our professional relationship. That's pretty nice. That is really nice. I understand that this is a challenging time. I'm willing to provide a reference. I'm going to take that out. That focuses on your professional accomplishments during your time here. HR will be in touch. I sincerely hope that you return my dog safely. Despite the circumstances, I wish you the best in your future endeavors. I'm going to say, you see where I got a first draft. This is where generative AI truly sings. I now have a first draft, and it was 20 seconds. I have all this stuff down. You know what the next thing I'm going to do here? I'm going to tell it to be less nice. I'm going to say, okay, this is nice. Let's try to make this where I'm not as kind to this person that stole my dog last night. And then you kind of go back and forth, and you do the tweaking. So you already can see where efficiency with generative AI is really where this is powerful. Again, Claude, this is a free version. All you have to do is sign up, and it's free. And there's also the $20 per month where you get the premium stuff, which is more image generations. You can also upload your own documents and ask it to review like a Word document. Like, can you check this for any typos, or what can I do to actually improve my language? Or can you condense this 50-page PDF down to 10 pages? Or can you summarize it for me? It can do all that stuff really quickly. So that is Claude. Let's try Gemini, which is Google's version. So you can see they give us some ideas. I do want to show you this one really quick. Create an image of the Great Pyramids on Mercury. Let's see if it'll do it. I think I know what it's going to do here, but let's find out. This, again, is free. You have to have a Google account to get this. OK, here we go. So you see that Gemini tried to create this. Nothing too crazy creative here. I think that's where I have to get the cats played. It gives me 4 different options. So they're all on Mercury. Interesting. That looks like the moon to me, but I'll take Mercury. But hey, I kind of like that one, actually. Anyway, so it gave me 4 options in about 20 seconds. Now you can start to understand why artists like this, but also maybe don't like this a little bit, how fast that was with image generation. The more you put people in here, the more it gets kind of that uncanny valley look that we had with those Wisconsin Badger football players. But you can see with backgrounds and designs, there are some interesting concepts you can play with here. Just very briefly, this is Canva, which is another tool you can use with a free, I think this is a free account. You can also pay for more options here. But let me just go ahead and show you one thing I designed really quickly. I asked it for a short video of kids playing outside in the summertime in Wisconsin. This is a AI-generated video that's just like a little short image of it. You see how it's just a little short, like 3-second slow motion video of those kids playing outside. That was just like I just literally typed a sentence and it gave me this little 3-second video of a slow motion kicking the ball outside. So this is where it's going. You can start to create AI videos with one sentence. And everything I'm doing is free or low cost. Imagine putting money into this and actually putting more heft behind these results that you're getting. It's amusing to see what it'll come up with, yes, but imagine putting this in more serious situations.
So are those children real?
Nope.
Or it's all artificial?
Yep, exactly. This is just AI just created this, it generated it based on the content it's laying on top of. So it knew yeah, sorry.
How can you tell by looking at that it's created?
Great question. You can't necessarily. You have to look for faults. We're going to play a game in a little bit to say, is this real or is this fake for generative AI tools? Because it can be very hard to tell that difference. This one, if you got a little closer, like it's kind of small on the screen, there are problems with this video. I looked at it very closely with a little jeweler's eye kind of, and there are some of the faces and the feet down here. That's where you have to look. That's kind of a trick with the generative AIs. It can't get the digits quite right. It looks wrong on the fingers and hands, and it looks wrong on the eyes normally. It also kind of looks softer. It looks like almost like a cartoon sometimes, like it will look a little bit too sheen or matted, if you will. So those are the kind of things I would look for. Like this looks almost too, it also almost looks too nice. Summertime in Wisconsin is nice, it's not that nice. So, those are the kind of things I look for. You can see like the sunlight and the dust, everything looks just a little off. That's what you're watching for a little bit right now. However, it's going to improve, and that will not stand. It's going to get better, no question. The last thing I want to show you before we jump back to the PowerPoint is this free voice simulator. So you've been listening to me for about 25 minutes now. This is called Play HT. All I created was a free account. All I had to do was record my voice for 30 seconds, and it's now able to clone my voice. Play HT is what it's called. So I'm going to What should I make myself say? You tell me what it sounds like, if this sounds like me. Middleton is the best city in the United States. Something I would say. All right, so it's generating it right now. It's going to take like 10 seconds, I believe. Don't make me a liar, Play HD. You can do it. Oh, let me see. Let's try that again. Come on, you can do it. This is the best thing. Yeah, that's the next thing we were going to talk about, is they are beta testing adding emotion. So we're gonna, after we do default, they're seeing if you can make me sound surprised that Middleton is the best city in the United States. Oh, come on. Let me just try to refresh this page and see if I can get this going here. Oops. While it's doing it, you can see add emotion. You can see this is kind of being worked. You can make me sound happy about it, sad, angry, disgusted, fear, scared, or surprised about Middleton being the best city in the US. If this doesn't work this time, we'll keep going. I'll come back to this if I can get it fixed. But I want to see if we can listen to myself saying this in a second. Nope, still not doing it. Let me try one more time. Try another one here and see if I can get it. Okay, here's one that I did a little while ago. So I'm just saying, can you tell this isn't my voice?
Can you tell this isn't my voice?
How's that sound? All right, let's try another one.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin.
You see what it's trying to do there? You're still in the uncanny valley of voice cloning. You can tell it sounds like me, but it's not quite me. It's in the realm, you know? Like if you heard that on a phone call, maybe you'd be like, oh, this is Chris. You know, like also you're trying to think like benefit of the doubt, there's not a voice cloner calling me in my phone. You may have heard it back in January. I think it was January during the Democratic primaries in New Hampshire. There was actually a voice cloner of Joe Biden calling voters to say, stay home, you don't need to vote. And people thought it was Joe Biden calling, but it was actually one of these, except much more expensive and much better, calling and saying, this is President Joe Biden. You do not need to vote. Save your vote for November or something like that. And because of that, they are trying to enact fake AI, deepfakes laws out of politics. Yes?
From what I heard, it sounds like, I think your voice is more airy compared to what it plays back. It's a little more smooth.
Yeah. It's also, that's true. It's also possible. So remember I said I recorded 30 seconds of my voice. Maybe at the time I had a cold or I have a cold now and it sounds just a little bit different that way. So it's only based off the 30 seconds of the voice I recorded at the time. So you could also re-record my voice and see if I could get a less or a more airy voice that way. So it could be that that's the situation. That it's just, it knew me at the time and my voice has either changed. Maybe I'm just happy to be here with you and I was not happy that day recording this voice cloner thing. Let's try and do an emotion real quick before we jump out of here. So let's try, fear. It has to be fear. Come on, you can do this. Let's see fear. All right, good.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin.
I get really high-pitched and speak very quickly when I'm scared is what it is, yeah. Let's just try one more. Let's try angry. I can't help myself. Once we're here, this is too fun. It's too weird is what it is. Oh, come on, you can do one more, Play HD. Anyway, like I said, this is free, and you can see that on a phone call, maybe you would think this is me. There's a very common, but still new, it didn't work that time, scam happening where someone clones the voice of a grandchild and they call the grandparent and say, I am in jail. please send money, right? I'm sorry, Grandpa, I need some money. My car has a flat tire. This is happening, and it has happened to a lot of people. And these are the kind of tools that are being used. All they have to find is 30 seconds of someone's voice, like on Facebook or Instagram, where someone is just talking, and then you clone that voice on something like this, and then you can make some money off of that. That's something to be very aware of about that. Is I'd say if you were to get a call like that, text your relative and say, are you doing okay? I just got a call from you. And they will say, what are you talking about? I'm just in class or something like that. So these are the kind of tools that are being used by these bad actors to try and get people separated from their money. So it's, again, you're also in the heat of the moment. If you hear that your granddaughter is in jail or hurt, you're not thinking that is a fake voice. You're thinking, I got to get money to that person. I got to help them. Verify is what you have to do. You have to verify and check all that stuff. All right, so we'll try some more of these fun things in a little bit, but let's get back to the presentation for now. So there are 2 uncanny valley things. So just really quickly, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, and Claude are all large language models. They will generally give you back text in return for what you are asking. Some of them will do images and videos as well, but they're mostly known as text generators. So large language models, yeah.
So Chris, have you compared them? Is one better than the other?
Some are better at some things they're good at some things and better at other things, if that makes sense. So the one that I like the most currently is Claude, because I think it's the fastest to generate the text, and it's also really great at summarizing those documents. Again, that's something you have to pay for, but that is something that is extremely helpful if you have a lot of things to quickly summarize. Just like, look at this 30-page, where I work, court document. My eyes glaze over. I don't want to read 30 pages of legalese, you know. However, I could ask one of these to just summarize that, tell me who the parties are, tell me what the decision was and why. It can do that pretty quickly. In my opinion, that's the one I'd go with. Next, ChatGPT probably, and then Microsoft Copilot, and then Google Gemini. I've just had too many problems with Google Gemini, to be honest, or I've had fake information given to me by Google Gemini. That's just my experience. They all can give you fake information, though I will emphasize that. Yeah?
Is there concern about confidentiality with respect to using like Claude for reviewing like court information?
There absolutely is. Yep, that's one of the next thank you. You're anticipating it perfectly. In fact, for that, I'm giving you a reward. I like that. Yeah. You get this cool-off fan, courtesy of Middleton Public Library. There you go. There you go. And then Lexis plus AI, I always include that one. We'll talk about that in a second, thank you though. This is a legal specific tool. So lawyers can use this. It's not sitting on top of the internet. It's sitting on top of Lexis, which is just a database of cases and statutes and laws and other things like that to find. So you're not sitting on top of Wikipedia to get your rulings and information. You're sitting on top of court cases. So to understand where you're drawing your information from is extremely important in that way. Are you getting information from a trusted source, like maybe a court case, or are you getting it from Wikipedia, which is a fine source in many ways, but not what you want to rely on when you're in court, for example. And then, of course, there's the image and the voice generators that we saw as well. So let's get to those perils and pitfalls that we just had a preview of a little bit. It is really dependent on its training data. We're starting to see that already, that what we've been talking about. You can get bias and misinformation out of all of these. If they are sitting on top of, let's say, the Reddit posts about the Ku Klux Klan, it's going to start drawing in those thoughts and those concepts. It's learning from its information. And if you know if that's the only place that it's drawing from, that's what it's going to talk about. So you have to understand what it is sitting on top of. This goes back to outdated information as well. ChatGPT not being connected to the internet right now. So if you were to ask it, I did a similar presentation like this a while ago, and I asked it about the tornado in February. That was right around Middleton, and it said, I don't know what you're talking about. That's because ChatGPT was not connected to the internet. However, I asked Google Gemini, and it said, oh yeah, there was a tornado last night, and it was able to find it right away. So that's just something to be aware of when you're looking at these different tools. One thing I want to point out, though, is there's also something called poisoning, where people get irritated with these things, and they'll put wrong information on the training data on purpose. So people don't like these tools, and they might actually purposely give it wrong information, and because it has wrong information, garbage in, garbage out back to you. So that's just something else to be aware of when you're using these tools. privacy issues, like we were talking about just a minute ago. Your input can become someone else's output. So if you're working on something that is very sensitive, you want to make sure that you are not uploading something that you don't want out there. There's a pretty well-known situation where Samsung was using ChatGPT last summer, and one of their engineers uploaded internal specs for one of their new tools, one of their new somethings, and they said, how can you make this better, ChatGPT? And it helped, but it also used that input to now train itself for other people. So if I wanted to ask it, what is Samsung working on right now, it would actually have what you uploaded, what the Samsung person uploaded as an output for someone else. So that was obviously confidential information, proprietary internal work product for Samsung became someone else's answer. So if you are uploading something to these tools, you have to be very aware of what you are putting into it. Do not say, I live in Madison, Wisconsin at 123 Main Street, and this is my dog was stolen last night by my employee, John Smith. I really don't like that guy. I hate him so much. Here's his Facebook. Like, this is all being trained to be learned by ChatGPT in these models. That's kind of where they're relatively transparent about it, but people don't notice it because you just want to use the tools because they are so cool. Look at all that stuff we just had to do. But you have to be aware of what you're putting in and what you're going to get out of it in that same way.
So Chris,
Mhm.
In terms of this database, so in legal, you saw the Lexis is there, but how about do they have the city data to what, for example, Middleton, Madison, or, all around the US?
Mhm.
Is there a database for the cities?
Sort of. There are some here and there. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot. Yep. Is there a database for like the city of Middleton, the city of Madison that has things like codes and things like that? Short answer is yes. There are city codes and also municipal codes that I'm happy to show you actually later on. I love this. We're stepping over to legal research for this. But there's not really an AI way to search that. You could just ask ChatGPT. In fact, that's a good one we can ask is what is the municipal code in Middleton for dogs on a leash or something like that. And it should be able to pull from this Middleton municipal code because that's just freely available online. It's out there and you can find that. And AI would discover that right away. Yeah.
When you call a company and you really need a live person, what's the magic word to get them?
I wish I knew. I don't know that one yet. It's Ask AI, maybe they would know that one. But I think that you would probably want to just keep hitting 0. I don't know that one yet. I'm going to work on that. I know. That'll probably hang it up, though. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, how are the public school teachers dealing with students going out to AI and asking them to write a paper for them on stuff?
Look what's on my next slide. I'll come back to that in just 1 second. I saw there's one more question here. Yeah.
If you ask it to do a summary,
Yeah.
say 50 pages or something, how do you know it's accurate?
That's where you are vetting the tool, right? So anything you're using, you have to say, is this something that I am going to trust?
What was the question?
I'm gonna remember one of these times. Sorry, thank you. But if you are asking it to summarize a 50-page document, how do you know that's an accurate summary? So that is a situation where you are vetting the tool itself. The way that it's a lot better, let me answer that actually by talking about this next thing, because I'm going to come right back to it. Because AI tools, one of their biggest problems is they are really overzealous and they hallucinate, which I'll talk about in a second. So they are really, 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 really excited to answer your question. They do not like to say no. That is I love saying this line. They're like an assistant that will lie to make you happy. That is what's called hallucination. That's where they make up information for you. Like if I were to ask it, what's the leading case on reproductive rights in Wisconsin, and it comes up with Doe v. John, something totally made up, it'll just pretend it's real. And if you don't know, how do you know if it's real or not? Now, that is drawing from the entire wide universe of the internet when you're asking it something like that. A big difference for AI tools is you just narrow down the universe of what it's drawing from to that one single 50-page document. Instead of drawing from the entire wide world of the internet, now the AI knows just to focus on those 50 pages. That makes it much more stronger because it's still possibly could hallucinate, but it's less likely to because it has fewer ways to make up information, if that makes sense. Now, there's no guarantee. You still have to kind of know what you're seeing. Like if you are an expert in engineering and you ask it to summarize a 100-page document and it says something that's blatantly wrong, red flag. You still have to try and vet this stuff to make sure it's correct. But it is getting better, and I have seen really good summaries of the ones I have read in the past from both Claude and from ChatGPT. Does that answer your question? Was there another question back there? I'm hallucinating now. Great. So that is what I mean by hallucination. The most famous case of hallucination in the law world, this is so funny to me. There was a lawyer in New York, upstate New York, who used ChatGPT to write a court document. He was just representing an airline. And he said into ChatGPT, find me some cases that support my case. And the ChatGPT said, sure, here you go. And he gave him 9 cases. All of them were not real. Not a single case was real. He didn't check it, filed it with the court, and the court said, well, where'd you get these cases from? And then he said, ChatGPT. And they go, well, how did you verify that? This is my favorite part. He goes, well, I asked this is literally what he typed in the ChatGPT. Are these cases real? And ChatGPT said, yes, they're real. That was his verification. Asking the liar if they were lying is not verification. So he is in a lot of trouble. Let's put it that way. That is an ethical breach on the magnitude of who knows what as far as lawyers go, of just making up information, because you can't support your arguments that way. But you see, AI was so excited to help this person that it lied to him. It's like, oh, here are the cases you want. I hope you're happy. And it spilled coffee all over him when it did so, you know? So that is something to be aware of. You have to know what you are seeing. You can't just take it and assume that it's right. You have to instead take what it's giving you and check it. And that is sometimes hard to do when you're summarizing. You're like, I don't want to read a 50-page document, so how do you check it? And that's where you get to know the tool a little bit better and have to hope that it is doing a little bit better as it's going on. But it is improving in that way. So now to get back to the cheating question, let's jump down to that one first. A lot of places at the law school, so this is stressful in law school because a lot of law school exams are write this essay about this situation. And if you just have access to the internet, you could literally put that question into ChatGPT and say, here's my question, use Wisconsin law to answer it. And famously, ChatGPT passed the bar exam last year. Like it was able to become, would have become a lawyer. So it's like a C lawyer or a C- lawyer. So if you don't care about the answer that your grade that much, great, you passed, you know, but it's not going to give you an A. So how to combat that, they're kind of trying to turn around and try to educate them about these problems. Like it's becoming more clear when someone has used AI to write it, because there are still these fake situations that show up. You're like, I have never seen a student write that well, or cite the Battle of Gettysburg when talking about the Trojan War. You know, like that's an extreme example. I don't think that actually happens, but you know, those are the two things that teachers are aware of. So they're trying to teach it about how to do that. But a big problem now is plagiarism. You know, you could just ask ChatGPT to write something for you, drop it in your answer. That's you just plagiarized, you know, like you just copied something. But it is very, very, very difficult to tell sometimes what that happened. So it's just an ongoing battle. They initially were just saying you cannot use the internet. Like at the law school, when you're doing an exam, they cut off your internet when you're doing it, and you just had to do it yourself. So it was kind of like I saw some professors say, here is your paper, write it. That's how far back they stepped, because they didn't want anyone even accessing online stuff. So that's an extreme example, but this goes down to, like, say, like the 4th, 5th grade students are using this all the way up through law school and beyond. And just to educate them about this and why they shouldn't do it this way and why this is a problem is how I would personally combat it.
Do they change it, like if you did a class and an assignment and everybody ended up just going to ChatGPT and asking basically the same question?
Mm-hmm.
Would they get the same answer?
No, nope, they'd get different answers. Okay. Isn't that wild too? Like it just depends on the instance. Like you would get a different answer. It would probably be substantially similar, but you would not get word for word the same answer. So like if you're asking something that has an answer, like what year did Wizard of Oz come out, that it will answer correctly. But if you're asking it, here's the situation, how should I approach it? It will give you different language and maybe a different end result each time, which is kind of an interesting way that so you can't pin it down. It's like trying to pin Jell-O to the wall in that way. You can't get there yet. And it's going to be kind of an arms race for, okay, now we know how to capture when someone has plagiarized from ChatGPT. Oh, it got better. Now we can capture it. Oh, it got better. So we'll see how far that goes. Copyright concerns is one thing I want to talk about briefly. Remember how I mentioned earlier that it's training data. They took Stephen King's works and all this stuff that is in copyright, that these authors are trying to make money off of. Guess who didn't ask permission to put it into the training materials? ChatGPT and all the other ones. So now you could ask it for write me a 100-page novel or 50-page novella in the style of Stephen King about a cat that terrorizes a small town in Maine. That will then spit it out. Maybe Stephen King had that in his head to write that next to make money. Oh, it was already written by ChatGPT. So there are actually court cases ongoing right now that could really change the training data and maybe even cripple some of these large language models, because they say you cannot use copyrighted materials in that way without paying a substantial amount of money for doing it. So stay tuned for that, because it might change some of the training data that we've been talking about a little bit. One thing that I think is going to come up at some point is the deeper divide between the haves and have-nots. Remember when I mentioned that these are free, these are $20 a month? That Lexis one that has all the law stuff in it, that's substantially more than $20 a month. So let's say you are going to court, but you can't afford a lawyer. You are using the free ChatGPT version to help you. Your lawyer that you're against maybe has the Lexis Cadillac version. One thing I've always heard is that this is a great way for people to access justice and try to level the playing field. Not when there's that much money involved. I kind of question that still. So that's still ongoing, and they will say, they being the people creating this, well, this is still something that's better than nothing. I'm like, not when you're lying to the lawyers and making up 9 cases. That's worse than nothing. So it's still an ongoing situation. So now that I've stressed you all out enough about the ChatGPT and the large language models, let's talk a little bit more about how to spot these fakes like I mentioned earlier. So we're going to play this game really, really quickly. But I can't help myself. So let's all just play together. This is from the New York Times. Is this a real person or an AI face? Fake? All right, let's see. That's a real person. How would you like to be that person? Everyone's like, that's not a real person. Get out of town. You know, that's not true. So let's try another one. Fake or real? Real? That's a real person. All right. Fake or real? We'll do fake. There, it's an AI image. All right. Fake or real? I heard 2 reals to 1 fake. Let's try it. That's a fake. There you go.
Why is it fake?
Background.
Oh, it's not even, yeah, the horizon is different.
Real or fake? All right. Yep, that's fake. You see, this is the one where remember I said it looks a little bit too nice? That's where I think I would lean towards. But that's not always the case. AI or real? All right. Yep, that's fake.
So if you look at the symmetry of their faces, like nobody's eyes are exactly the same.
What's wrong with it?
It's too symmetrical.
She was saying it was too symmetrical. Is that fake or real? That's a real person. Fake or real? That's a real person. All right, good job. Fake or real? Real? Oh, AI on that one. And fake or real? That's a real person. So we got 5 out of 10. That's 50%. That's a failing grade. I don't care what grade you're in. Look how hard that is. That's incredibly hard. So just imagine, like, this is stuff to be aware of. Like, this is kind of like a call out to, like, it looks really great. Then now take that and apply it to the information it's giving you as well. You have to just be cognizant of what information you get out of the AIs and also what it looks like at the end result. It always looks pretty good, but when you scratch that surface sometimes, maybe it's not real. So that's kind of like my little moral of the story for this game. Liz, you're posting this, right? The PowerPoint's going to be on the Middleton's website, and all this stuff is linked. So if you want to show this to your family, friends, colleagues, you should be able to access it and get there. It's a fun game because I'm sure all of you know someone's like, I can tell AI from real. Have them take this. No one's going to get 10 out of 10, and if they do, they're cheating. All right, let's come back to our slides here. Like I said, there are the links. This top one is the New York Times one. You should be able to access it in a couple of different ways. And then this one is a study that was done with a whole lot of different image generating models. So here is what they asked it to create an Indian person. Here's what it came up with, almost always. What do you see? I see almost exactly one person over and over again. Although there are some times where it gets a little confused, where it's combining Indian and Native American into one, or just entirely Native American in the upper left-hand corner. But I mean, I will remind you that India is a country of over 1 billion people. They are not all old men with beards. This is not just true for India. This also happens when you ask it for an American. In the US, it's a lot of blonde females. Liz, no offense. However, look at this one. What is that? I'm terrified. The idea here is that these image generators, when you're working with people and trying to create cultures, it runs roughshod over subtlety and nuance and what people actually look like. So this is obviously flattening cultures. This is not all India. This is not all the United States, which, by the way, all the United States people get the American flag behind them, too. It's kind of an interesting addition by the AI. So this is a very long article that I link out to. It's freely available, but they ran a lot of tests through all these image generators to say, here are some of the problems that come out of when you just ask it to create content for you. Again, it's sitting on top of the data that's like, okay, we think that all Americans are almost always white women, blonde women, you know, or we think that all Indians are men, old men with beards. Quick, go. And it's just flattening the cultures is what it is. There's been a couple of instances where it'll come up with things like doctors can't be pregnant because the doctor has to be a man, stuff like that, where it's just drawing incorrect conclusions from a wide collection of data. Clearly wrong, but that's what the conclusion it came to. And it's very similar to this, where sure, this could be representative of some parts of India and some parts of the United States, but definitely not all.
How does it do
With riddles? Good question. Maybe we'll try some if we have a few minutes. We can try it and see. I know it can create good riddles. I have seen that, but we can see how we can answer them. So how do you talk to these things? Here's a few just the 6 Ps of talking to the AI. This is a whole little industry that's sprung up. Is called prompt engineering. Doesn't that sound fancy? It's just talking to the AI. So here's kind of the idea of how do you create an effective way of getting what you want out of the AI. Prime it first. You're giving it context. I work in Madison, Wisconsin at a library. You're giving it the context geographically and about what you're kind of expecting from the part of the world that you are living in and who you are, a little bit of background. However, privacy, very important. So you want to make sure you're not giving away too much information here. Don't say all that stuff I said previously about my dog being stolen by John Smith and all that kind of good stuff. Give it a perspective and a tone. Make sure I want a formal letter that is going to be looked at by my staff, or I want an informal letter that's going out to my PTA volunteers, something like that. Product, tell it what you want. Do you want an image? Do you want a video? Do you want an email? Do you want a text message? Do you want a social media post? Do you want a formal letter? Tell it what you want, and that way you won't just get the outline like ChatGPT just gave us that kind of those results back. This one will actually give you the format back as well. And then you actually are ready to prompt it. It's kind of hard to say, take those first 4 bullet points and squish them into a prompt, but you want to be relatively concise. Because one thing about AIs is the longer your question, the more likely it's going to get confused. So you want to make sure that it kind of gets it into as few words as possible, just like giving instructions to teenager, preteen. Make sure you're getting the concise, correct words across. And then, I think the most important thing, polish it. Like we have seen already, the end result, what you get is not the final result. You need to go back and elaborate with it, talk with it. Like remember our Claude letter to our staff? Remember that we were firing? There was a kernel of a good email there, maybe more of a kernel than a kernel. But we needed to refine that and put our own voice into it. We needed to kind of go back and talk about it a little bit more. And that's what's great about ChatGPT and all these AIs is you can have a conversation with it back and forth and back and forth. And you can keep on talking with it until you get to where you want it. And then you pull it out and it's yours after that. So that's kind of the 6 Ps that we've come to at the Law Library that are hopefully helpful for you. So where's AI going next? That's where we are currently. AI is not done with us. We're not done with AI. So here is one little short video of what Microsoft is trying to do. Let me play this for you. Inside of all the Microsoft Office tools. There's Copilot. I'll talk more about that in a second. Drafted based on this Word document. So now we've just given it its own universe. Just from that one Word doc we created. Now it's doing this for us. Oh, 10-slide PowerPoint based on that same thing. There it is. Should have used that. This is the one I most wanted for. Excel. Analyze all this data and actually tell me what it looks like. There's all the data. Do you ever use Zoom or Teams? Join the meeting late, catch up on what happened, reads the transcript, tells you what was talking about. And says, here's the action item for this meeting. So I can tell you what people are talking about. Microsoft paid me $0 to show you that, so don't buy them necessarily. So Copilot is the name of the tool that lives within your Word documents and Excel and PowerPoint and Teams and Outlook, but it's also the name of their large language model, Copilot. So it's also the thing you can ask all those questions of. So the idea here is Copilot is what's called in the industry, so to speak, it's called Retrieval Augmented Generation. So what that means is instead of sitting on top of that enormous pool of information, it's just drawing from that one Word doc that you created. So now you have less concern about privacy and confidentiality because it's living within your documents. And also you know the content because you created it. But now you can create new content based on that. Like I have this 10-page brief I wrote. Condense it, make it an email or make it a PowerPoint. And it'll do it like that, like as you were seeing in the video. So that's where it's going next, is you'll have these smaller AI tools that live within your documents and within your arts and within your home that actually just works in a smaller scale than that. So I think that'll be very interesting. I'm not going to jump out since we're almost out of time, but this is Rebecca and Liz, you might have seen that one. That's a sample AI search for library catalogs that's using SCLS. It's pretty cool. So you can actually say, I had a book with a red book, it had red on the cover, with a sword and a dragon, find it. And it'll go and find all the books in Middleton's catalog that actually has that description with the cover on it. And now, a librarian thing that I'm sure we'll talk about more is we get that question a lot. I had a blue book that was really great. Okay. We need more than that, but now this is the kind of tool that will help answer those kind of things because it's sitting on top of just the library catalogs information, not the whole internet. So it's just drawing from one source like that. So AI is gonna get integrated into more things. You're gonna see it everywhere. There's no question you're gonna be using it accidentally. It's gonna be in Google. It's gonna be in your appliances. I can assure you of that. It will be in refrigerators. It'll be in dishwashers. It'll be in cars, no question. And it'll kind of say, hey, AI, can you make sure that I turn on the dishwasher at 10:05? Sure, yeah, you do it. And it'll delegate it and do it for you, that kind of stuff. I think that's where it's going. And then ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI, is creating a new thing where you can actually talk to it, text it, and then take pictures of things all at the same time, and it'll interact with all those things all at once. So you can say, hey, AI, take a look at this room and tell me what's in it. And it'll say, oh, I see all these people in here learning a lot about AI and having the time of their lives. And I say, that's exactly right. And then you can actually convert that to text. So the idea is instead of just interacting with it as a text message, you can actually have it record things, create new images based off that, and then listen to you all at once. That is out now. It's very new, but it's out now. So I use it just briefly to brainstorm. If I'm like, okay, I need to write that email I talked about earlier, I just need to get some words on paper, that is how I use a lot of AI. Is like I just need to kind of see what concepts I can come up with here. One thing our students use it a lot for is like, here is an entirely new and foreign concept in the law. They've never dealt with it. They just need to start, emphasis on start, wrap their heads around this new idea. And then from there, they go and research it. Like, okay, I've got the terminology and I know what words I need to learn to now go and dig further. AI is great at that starting point for that. And I do encourage that, and students have found that really helpful. What do you want generative AI to do? We're gonna be like 3 minutes over, Liz. You gonna handle it? All right, good. Anything you all want generative AI to do? Yes?
You said that I could tell it to look at all my emails if they were in Apple.
Yep.
Outlook.
Yep.
So it could look at all my emails and create a timeline of some event or a timeline on board meetings that I've attended.
Yep. Apple is making their own AI right now to live within the Apple instance of email. I think you could say to it, read my emails and find all of them from so-and-so discussing this and put it on and go from there. I'm pretty confident that's coming soon. Instead of like a search bar where you're just using keywords, you know, I think you could be able to interact with it more dynamically like that.
So I teach online.
Mm-hmm.
And last semester, we were told to add to our syllabus one of 3 statements for our class. Either you are allowed to use AI
Mm-hmm.
any way you want it, you cannot use it at all, or you can specifically use it this way.
Yep.
And how would I know if a student was using it?
It's an honor code thing. That's what it is. Yeah. We have the same situation in law school, whereas like my class, I'm like, you have to, I actually require they use it because I need them to practice with it. But then there's some that say you cannot use this full stop. If you do use it, you have cheated and now you have failed the class, right? Like that's an honor code, especially in law school where they take that stuff very seriously. You know, although any school should take that seriously, but that is where it's at. Because yeah, telling that difference, like I said earlier, it's just going back and forth, and that's where it's at right now.
But they have to learn how to use it.
Agreed.
It's really educational.
Agreed. I think that turning it off entirely is not the solution. I think what we've kind of come to the compromise to in law school is teaching them how to do it themselves. Because you need to, again, I can't remember who said it, you need to understand what you are looking at. If you don't, you're going to just assume it's right because it looks so sharp, you know. But if you understand what you're looking at, you can then thoughtfully verify and review it and say, yes, it's giving me good information much more efficiently than I can. So the idea is maybe the first semester or 2, they can't use it for writing or research, and then you turn it on for the last 2 years. And then you have 2 years where you can use it as long as the professor allows it in their class. So that's kind of where it's at right now. But that is evolving, no question. So I'm going to get to my last slide here. So are we starting to believe in AI? Is this something we want to try out? And just my wrapping up thoughts here. It's a beginning when it comes to research. This is for the librarians and all of us. It can start you in a lot of good places when you're doing research, just like Googling can start you in a lot of good places. This will start you in some good places, but be aware of what results you are getting, at least for now. That's where you should do it. This is something I say to everyone, this is enhancing people's work. It's not replacing work. You've probably seen all the dreadful articles that this is now taking over everything from any kind of white-collar job, basically. Not the case. Look at what we just saw. This is not ready for prime time in that way. It needs human oversight for now. And it also needs people to know how to use them correctly. There's a lot of people that still need to teach this. There's a lot of people that need to use it thoughtfully. It can be used in such magnificent ways, but it can't just be used to replace people at this point, and not for a while. I would suggest you just be trained to try them out. Try them out, be aware of those confidentiality and privacy questions, and be knowledgeable about it. Yeah.
So, just to clarify, if I told it to look at my emails, how would it would learn from my emails? How do I know it doesn't take that information away?
So that is where you get those smaller AI tools. So you have these enormous ones that train itself on the internet. And then you'll have these smaller ones that you have specifically purchased just to look at your content. So just like you trust Apple to have all your emails, like they could do, like Google sells stuff out of your inbox, Gmail, by the way. But that's an aside. I'll get off my soapbox for that one. But just to be like you trusted Apple, you've trusted Gmail, you've trusted Microsoft. So like you wrote a journal in Microsoft. You trusted that. So you bought the AI that lives in there, you have vetted it, and you've trusted it. The ones we looked at, like ChatGPT and the similar ones, those are not at that level of trust because they will use that as training data. But other ones that are sitting within yours, imagine that is a place where the lawyers would have a field day. I bought this and it's sitting inside stuff that I bought, and then you sold all that, that one would be a problem. But if it's just out there asking it like a Google search, that one is kind of free, free reign for them to do that. So you just have to be aware of those limitations when you're doing that. It's going to keep on evolving. Keep on trying it because it's going to keep on evolving, keep on changing. I've done this presentation a bunch over the past year and a half, and every time I have to go back and look very carefully to make sure I have the current stuff on there because it changes so rapidly. A couple things that you can get off the PowerPoint that'll be on the website. I like this one because it has just the best AI tools for 2024. It'll say, do you want to clone voices? Here's 5 tools that can do it. Do you want to create images? Here are 5 tools that can do it. Really great website for that. And similar to that, there's an AI for that. This is another website that just says, do you want to do this? Do you want to create documents? Go and check out these things. And there's a whole long list of them. There's so many of them out there right now. That's almost too many at this point. So with that, we are finally at the end. Are there any questions at the end? We've been talking through the whole thing, but we can ask questions now as well. Yeah.
We hear about NVIDIA being the king of AI.
Mm-hmm.
So is NVIDIA with its chips, I guess it is, making all this fast? Is that what it's doing?
Yeah. So yes, long story short, yes. So they're making this hardware that goes into keeping the servers and everything else working this fast. Because you saw how rapidly that went through. Every time we did one of those, it's a server working in the back end that makes it go so quickly. That's actually a question that's been brought up, is that these are actually costing so much money, and there's an environmental cost to these, by the way, because they require cooling all the time because they're always working really hard to generate this content. So it requires more AC and more water and more things like that and more microchips to make sure that they are working correctly. So that's why NVIDIA is doing so well, because they are in demand to make these things work so efficiently. Yes? I think that's a good question. I got this, believe it or not, this is just a random image out of Microsoft PowerPoint. You can just find like little repeating videos. I'll have to go back and see what it is. Liz, I'm going to tell you what this is and see what it is. Any guesses what this is? I think it's kind of like it looks like a camera lens. It might be like almost like a circular, it's almost like they circled like a computer, and like it's like a computer screen that they made into a circle, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I'll double check and see. I just liked it because it's kind of mesmerizing. Any other questions? If not, yeah, go ahead.
So are the AI software companies legally required to disclose their sources for the information that they generate?
No.
Okay, and then are they also required to disclose whether or not they're learning from your content and sharing it broadly?
Yes, that is out there, but it's not always the most obvious place that it's out there. So when you are signing up for one of these things, there should be on like all those things that you immediately click through, I agree to your terms and service, that's where it's going to be. Like we will keep, like for example, ChatGPT will keep if I ask them not to keep and train on my data, which you can opt into, they'll still keep it for, oh no, this is Google Gemini, sorry. Google Gemini say, we will not keep and train your data except for 72 hours. So they still have 3 days where they kept your data, and then they got rid of it. So they kind of agreed to get rid of it. So it is in there, that they will tell, but they don't have to say, here is the source. In fact, that's kind of a problem when you're asking this information. You see that ChatGPT did not cite any of its sources, because it didn't. You'd have to kind of dig in a little bit more. It's like, well, why did you recommend these as the ones that you should use? And I just realized I haven't been saying the questions again. Sorry about that. But yeah, so you can definitely find out which ones are more transparent about training on your data and opting out if you want to, but they won't always say, this is the source we used for that.
Could you, if you were researching a law case, could you say, give me the 10 best cases that support my case and give me your source?
Yes, and here's what would happen. It would give you those 10 cases, and it would make up the source. It would, I wish I had one. Oh, let me see if I can find one. Sorry, Liz, 10 minutes over. I'm going to see if my Google Gemini might have some history here. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah, here we go. Oh, let's see. Oh, this one, I think this is it. So I asked, what are the leading cases on this topic? And this topic was search warrants in Wisconsin. And it gave me these 2 cases. So with that, I would be able to find these cases. That's all I need. Those are both fake. These are both fake cases. Unbelievable. Like, it just made them up. I remember this one because I was so happy they were fake, because I love it when I get fake cases with this. Like, that's why I've said I've had bad experience. They've actually been good experiences because they're good learning experiences with Google Gemini. But this is a good point. Liz, if you want to double check me, I think they're fake. I'm pretty sure. But this one, you can see if this is fake, which I think it is, it just made up the information in the case. It's just made up. It's just, yeah, exactly. And this happens all the time. It does happen. But like, if we were to ask it for a site, like say, where did you find these? One of 2 things would happen. It'd either make up where it found it, or you can sometimes get it to say, oh, I made a mistake. That's not real. And that's always kind of fun when you get it to do that. I don't think I can come back into this one because it's kind of old, but this is just an idea of when you're searching for something like this that's gonna, like in law, obviously your bedrock argument relies on a case, and your bedrock just fell away because it's not true, you know. But this is an example of, like, I could find this real case. This is where if students did this search, take that and do that next level search to make sure that's real. Because if you don't, and just take that, everything you just relied on is made up. So I hope that's a good example there for you. Yeah?
State versus genus appears on my law.justia.com.
Okay, that one might be real. Good. All right, good. Did you look up on the other one or no?
It showed up.
Oh, they're both real. I promise you I've had fake ones before. These are both real. I'm sorry, Gemini, I besmirched your good name. But there are instances where this is not real. Thank you for checking that. So yeah, so that's a good example, actually, is where these are real cases and it did pull up information. I take back what I said about being fake. So sometimes it will bring up real cases here that we're looking for as well. Sorry, yeah.
Well, when you ask Siri a question, she always tells you where the answers are.
Yeah. It's something that's really frustrating to me is, like, why can't we just see at the bottom? They're getting better about it, by the way. Copilot is especially good at it. It'll say, here are some sources you can learn where I pulled it from. So it's becoming a known situation. So I think that's probably another step forward for AI, is to become more transparent about where they're drawing it from, or at least to say, here are more reading you can do if you'd like to learn more about this situation. At least to point you to further reading on that one. Any other questions?
Good job.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
I was just wondering how many people here are computer programmers or anything like that?
What was that?
No computer programmers here. Yeah.
Nobody? Not yet.
Not yet. Now start with this. There you go.
Yeah, I'm the only one.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.